Imagine you're lying in bed late at night, scrolling through your phone, half asleep, when suddenly a news alert lights up your screen. Scientists just detected a powerful signal from deep space, again. But this time, it didn't just happen once. It repeated. And no one, absolutely no one, can explain where it's coming from. Not definitively. Not yet. Some say it's just a strange cosmic event. Others whisper about aliens. But here's the wild part. Whatever or whoever is behind these signals, they're operating in a pattern, almost like they're trying to communicate. Welcome to one of the most captivating and unnerving space mysteries of our time. You're not here by accident. You clicked on this video because somewhere deep down, a part of you needs to know, are we alone in the universe? By the end of this video, you're going to have an answer that might not be what you expect, and it may just change the way you look at the night sky forever. Let's talk, just you and me. Because this isn't just a story. It's not another flashy headline or TikTok theory that burns out in 24 hours. This is real. It's happening. And it's still unsolved. And I get it, life is busy, we've all got a million things pulling at us. But for the next few minutes, I need you to stay with me. I promise you, this isn't fluff. This is a true story unfolding in real time, one that world-class scientists, billion-dollar telescopes, and even the Pentagon are trying to untangle. And you are about to understand what very few people do. You're about to be taken on a ride through some of the most mind-blowing scientific investigations ever attempted. And it all revolves around one question. What are fast radio bursts, and why are they happening? The tension in this story is almost unbearable once you grasp what's at stake. These bursts are not just random space noise. They're powerful, they're brief, mere milliseconds, and they travel billions of light years across space to reach us. That's like hearing a whisper from across the universe. And here's the kicker. One of them came from a galaxy so far away, it shouldn't even be possible for the signal to reach us with the strength it had. The energy involved? Equivalent to what our sun produces in nearly 100 years, all discharged in a fraction of a second. Try to wrap your head around that. How is that even possible? Scientists were left scratching their heads, and some of them even privately admitted that this looked intentional. Could this be the long-awaited, wow, Signal 2.0? Are we on the brink of discovering extraterrestrial intelligence? Or is the universe just playing tricks on us? Before we go any deeper, let's set the scene. Picture an observatory in British Columbia, Canada, the Chime Telescope. It doesn't look like a spaceship or some massive satellite dish you'd see in a movie. It's more like a huge metal trough stretched across a field. It operates quietly, relentlessly scanning the sky, 24/7, collecting data. Then, in August of 2019, it detected something that shook the astrophysics world. A repeating fast radio burst. That's right, repeating. And not just randomly, but on a schedule. Every 16.35 days, like clockwork. For 4 days, the signal would flare up. Then silence. Then again. Then silence. That's when scientists realized they weren't looking at just some random stellar burp. This was a pattern. And as you and I both know, patterns mean intelligence. But let me pull you into this even deeper, because you're not just a viewer. You're part of this story now. The search for alien life isn't happening in some far-off lab anymore. It's happening here on platforms like this, where people like you are asking questions, connecting the dots, pushing past the noise to get to the truth. I'm not going to flood you with complicated terms or chalkboard equations. This video is designed to bring you into the center of the investigation, because, trust me, the truth is stranger and scarier than anything fiction could dream up. And don't think this is just science fiction nonsense.
No.
NASA is involved. SETI is listening. Even the military has weighed in, with declassified files showing they've tracked unexplained aerial phenomena that seem to correlate with FRB activity. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you stack up the timing, the math, and the precision of these bursts, something starts to feel off. And here's where the plot really thickens, because someone, somewhere, already predicted this. Decades ago, a small group of fringe astrophysicists warned that we'd start receiving signals that mimic nature but feel too perfect. They called them technosignatures, proof that a technologically advanced civilization might be using signals to reach out across galaxies. And what we're seeing now matches that theory to the letter. Now here's where I need your full attention. We're going to dig into classified research, real-time satellite tracking, and interviews with the very scientists who first cracked these signals open. But I'm not going to just tell you what they said, I'm going to show you. I want you to feel what they felt when they realized that these bursts weren't flukes. I want you to sense their excitement, their fear, their awe. Because this isn't just a scientific story, it's a deeply human one. A story about discovery, isolation, and the vastness of everything we still don't understand. It's about us trying to make sense of a universe that, frankly, doesn't owe us any answers, but maybe, just maybe, it's starting to give us one. Let's talk themes, just so you know what to expect. You'll see elements of cosmic horror, scientific obsession, interstellar mystery, and even geopolitical intrigue. There are real people involved here. Dr. Laura Harding, a radio astronomer who lost funding after going public with her belief that the FRBs might be intelligently made. Major Douglas Rains, a former intelligence officer who claims the U.S. has been monitoring FRBs for a decade longer than we thought. And then there's the chilling, almost poetic symmetry in how these bursts arrive, like a heartbeat from something vast and unknowable, pulsing through the dark. I'm going to take you from mountaintop observatories to underground military archives. We'll listen to raw recordings of actual FRB signals. Some sound like a tap on glass. Others, like a scream slowed down across space and time. And I want to be clear, I'm not here to sell you on aliens. I'm not here to dismiss natural phenomena either. I'm here to ask the questions you're already asking in your mind right now. Because we all feel it. Something's coming. A revelation. An answer that could unite us or shatter everything we think we know. Now, you've probably heard of black holes, magnetars, and neutron stars as possible explanations. But did you know that none of those can fully explain all the FRB data we have so far? Especially not the repeating ones. Especially not the ones that have been decoded to show sequences resembling binary code. And here's the twist. One of those repeating bursts wasn't just on a schedule. It shifted patterns as if responding to observation. That's like looking into the dark and having something look back. So stay with me. Take a breath. The deeper we go, the stranger it gets. But I promise you, every minute you spend in this story will take you closer to an answer that's not just compelling, but potentially history-defining. Fast radio bursts may very well be the first whispers of another intelligence. Or they might be the universe's most elaborate trick. But either way, the clock is ticking and something is out there. And just when scientists thought they had started to understand the repeating signals, a new burst shattered their theory. This one wasn't from billions of light years away. It came from within our own galaxy, a place we thought we'd already mapped. And that changes everything. It didn't take long after that signal, originating from inside our own galaxy, for the scientific community to quietly erupt into chaos. Theories collapsed overnight. Models that took years to build suddenly made no sense. And buried beneath the headlines was one particular name that kept surfacing in hushed discussions and off-the-record conversations: Dr. Aidan Cross. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room, nor the most decorated, but among the tight-knit astrophysics world, he had a reputation. Not just for his brilliance, but for how he saw connections others dismissed. Before the recent burst, Cross had gone nearly silent for months. No papers, no interviews, no conference appearances. Just silence. Until now. Word got out that he had been tracking something independently, something he never reported to any institution. And now that the latest FRB seemed to match the exact coordinates he'd been observing, everyone wanted to know what he'd found. Or worse, what he might be hiding. Cross had always been somewhat of a recluse. He worked for a time at the Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia, but after falling out with senior leadership over unauthorized use of the array during quiet hours, he left abruptly. Some colleagues say he was obsessed, convinced that certain signals were being deliberately filtered out of shared databases. Others recall how he once claimed the data from at least 3 observatories had been remotely altered before reaching the public archive. Was he being paranoid, or did he stumble onto something bigger than he could prove? Friends remember him saying he was working on a program that could detect artificial modulation, something that could separate natural cosmic noise from potential communication. But when they pressed him for details, he'd deflect, saying it wasn't ready yet. Then, just as suddenly as he disappeared, his name was attached to a classified request filed through a research division loosely affiliated with the Department of Defense. The form was vague, but it referenced persistent non-random emissions from celestial source, C-143-22. That designation hadn't been used in any public catalog, and that's when things started getting strange. To outsiders, it might just sound like another scientific rabbit hole, but those close to Aiden started noticing more concerning shifts. He stopped replying to emails. His personal website, once filled with research updates and open source code, was wiped clean. Even his closest friend, Dr. Malia Chen, hadn't spoken to him in over 6 weeks. The last time they met, she said he was different, tired, anxious, constantly checking his phone. He kept talking about interference, about how someone was shadowing his logs. She assumed it was just stress. But when she asked him directly if he believed the signals were real, if he thought someone or something was trying to reach out, he just stared at her for a moment, then quietly said, "What if they already reached someone?" He didn't elaborate. He just walked out of the coffee shop, leaving behind a flash drive that Malia still hasn't been able to crack. And then there's the night of the burst, the one that changed everything. Security footage from the observatory showed that Aiden accessed a restricted section of the control room, something only possible with a deactivated access card. Yet somehow he got in. That same night, an unauthorized scan was initiated targeting a narrow band frequency just milliseconds before the FRB hit. The timing was too precise to be chance. Was it Cross who triggered the scan, or someone else using his credentials? No one knows for sure. But when the footage was reviewed the next morning, the digital timestamp appeared altered, subtly but just enough to raise flags. And now Aiden is gone. No activity on his bank accounts. Phone disconnected. Apartment abandoned. It's as if he vanished the moment that signal arrived. That's when people started talking about redirection. About how, maybe, the FRBs weren't random events or natural explosions, but intentional signals aimed not just at Earth, but at specific people. Was Aiden Cross the intended recipient? Or was he just the first person to get too close? Theories started bubbling up online. Threads on Reddit, deep dive TikToks, conspiracy videos on YouTube with millions of views. Some think he was abducted. Others believe he's gone underground to protect what he found. One particularly chilling theory claims the burst wasn't a message but a trigger, something designed to activate a latent signal, or worse, a response. And if that's true, then the next question is obvious. Who else is listening? Meanwhile, Dr. Malia Chen has become an unlikely focal point. She's tried to stay out of the spotlight, but the pressure has been building. Journalists have been camping outside her home. Government officials have contacted her employers. Her email was recently hacked, and someone unknown attempted to remotely access the flash drive Aiden left behind. She's terrified, but she also knows too much to walk away. In a private interview, which was leaked online just days ago, she revealed that in the weeks before Aiden vanished, he began referencing a signal map, a series of bursts that, when plotted over time, seemed to form a geometric shape. Not random, not chaotic, structured. When she asked him what it meant, he only said, "It's a key, but I don't know what it unlocks." Since then, amateur codebreakers and mathematicians have been analyzing burst patterns, trying to find what Aiden saw. So far, no one's been able to replicate his findings.
But the map?
It's been circulating in the dark corners of the internet, and every time someone posts about it, it mysteriously disappears within hours. DMCA takedowns. Server shutdowns. Entire threads erased. Someone doesn't want this getting out. The tension here is multilayered. Is Aiden the hero of this story? Or is he something else entirely? Could he have fabricated part of the data in desperation, hoping to prove a theory that was falling apart? Or was he silenced because he found something we weren't meant to discover? And what about Dr. Chen? Is she just a loyal colleague trying to find answers? Or could she be protecting something, or someone we haven't met yet? Some even believe she's already cracked the flash drive and is withholding what she found. But if that's true, why hasn't she gone public? Is it fear? Is it control? Or is there a bigger agenda at play? There are others, too, caught up in this growing web. A former SETI engineer who claims he was fired after alerting leadership to a repeating signal he believed matched known FRB patterns. A low-level NASA analyst who anonymously submitted coordinates to an online forum that eerily aligned with the location of a recent burst. A YouTuber who tracked down an abandoned listening station in Arizona that he says recorded a similar pulse back in 1996, long before the world even knew what FRBs were. Every thread seems disconnected, but if you follow them long enough, they start leading back to the same coordinates, the same frequency, the same pattern. Someone or something is either drawing people in or pushing them away, and we don't know which. At this point, you're probably wondering if there's a smoking gun, a breakthrough, some undeniable evidence that will finally blow this open. But here's the most disturbing part. Every time someone gets close to revealing something definitive, something happens. Files get deleted. Witnesses retract their statements. Projects get defunded. And yet, the bursts keep coming. Faster. Louder. Closer. As if time is running out. As if the universe isn't just speaking, it's demanding to be heard. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get stranger, another signal came through. This one was different. It didn't match any known burst. It was longer, more complex. And hidden within its waveform was something chilling, an unmistakable pattern of sound resembling a human voice. No language, just tone, pitch, rhythm. Like a warning, like a countdown. And now, the next burst is expected in less than 72 hours. Would you like me to continue into the next chapter of this story, focusing on the countdown and what the burst may unlock? Dr. Malia Chen hadn't slept in nearly 48 hours, and the circles under her eyes weren't just from exhaustion. They were from fear. The kind that creeps in quietly, settles in your chest, and never leaves. Ever since the flash drive Aiden left her began to behave erratically, she'd known something wasn't right. She had tried everything: encrypted environments, air-gapped machines, even consulting a cybersecurity expert off the record. But the data kept vanishing mid-analysis, fragments disappearing like they were never there to begin with. Then last night, her home Wi-Fi went dark. Not just a glitch, completely offline. When she called the provider, they claimed there were no outages in her area. But that same evening, she caught a reflection in her window. A car parked across the street, engine running, no lights. It stayed there for almost 2 hours. No movement. No one stepped out. By the time she gathered the nerve to confront whoever was inside, the car had vanished. She told herself it could have been nothing, but deep down, she didn't believe that. Especially not after what happened the next morning. When she returned to her lab at the university, her ID card failed to unlock the door. She was told by the front desk that her access had been suspended. No reason. No warning. Just a simple directive from upper administration. She demanded answers, but no one would tell her anything. That's when she noticed her research laptop, previously stored in a secured cabinet, was gone. Her backup drives, too. Every trace of her recent work wiped out. It wasn't a coincidence. Someone was sending her a message. Stop digging. But why now? And who had the power to shut her out so completely? Her only remaining copy of the signal data, what was left of it, was stored on an old offline tablet hidden in her apartment. But even that wasn't safe anymore. Later that night, a man approached her as she walked out of a grocery store, late 40s, clean-cut, dressed like he could have been a Fed or just another guy on the street. He didn't show a badge, didn't give a name, just said, "You're getting too close to something that doesn't want to be found." Aiden made the same mistake. She froze. Before she could ask what he meant, he was gone. No license plate, no trace. Just that quiet warning echoing in her ears. That's when she realized this wasn't just about science anymore. This was about control, about secrets, about someone or something making sure the truth remained buried. And then, out of nowhere, a new player entered the picture. A private contractor named Lucas Brandt, former intelligence analyst turned freelance researcher. He reached out to Malia through an encrypted message, claiming he'd worked with Aiden months before his disappearance. Lucas said Aiden had discovered something bigger than just a pattern in the FRBs, something about their origin, a recurring signal signature that seemed to triangulate around a specific region in space. Not just our galaxy. A precise location within the Milky Way's Perseus arm. Lucas offered to help decode the last remaining pieces of data, what little Malia had salvaged. But his timing felt too convenient. His background too clean. And when she searched for him online, there were gaps in his resume that made no sense. Whole years missing. Projects erased. Who exactly was he working for now? And why was he so eager to help? Malia hesitated but agreed to meet him. They rendezvoused in an abandoned observatory outside Tucson, one of the few places with a dish powerful enough to reorient manually and scan low-frequency ranges without detection. Lucas brought his own gear, custom-built signal sniffers, spectrum analyzers, and a modified SDR interface capable of detecting bursts at frequencies typically ignored by mainstream telescopes. As the night wore on, they began scanning. Nothing at first, just static. But then, without warning, a sharp pulse broke through, brief, but unmistakable. It wasn't logged on any global observatory feed. No one else saw it, just them. And it was followed by something Malia hadn't seen before, a data packet embedded in the burst, a series of repeating primes and geometric ratios that looked eerily similar to the map Aiden had mentioned. They began to decode it, and what emerged sent chills down her spine. The data, when rendered visually, outlined a diagram, something resembling a blueprint or a transmission tower, but alien in design. And at the bottom, an alphanumeric code neither of them could trace. Lucas said he'd seen something like it before, during a black site project back in 2017 involving deep space listening stations funded through a DARPA-affiliated program. That project, he claimed, was abruptly shut down and all data confiscated. The official reason? Signal contamination. The unofficial rumor? The equipment picked up something it wasn't supposed to. Something that made high-level decision-makers panic. Malia began to question everything. Was Aiden really trying to warn her about a cosmic message, or was he lured into something far more terrestrial, some kind of government cover-up or classified operation? And what about the FRBs themselves? Were they truly alien, or just a smokescreen for something much closer to home? The line between extraterrestrial phenomena and military experimentation was growing dangerously thin. And as the next scheduled burst approached, the risks of exposure were climbing fast. If the message hidden in the waveform was a signal, a countdown, or a map, then they were standing on the edge of a revelation that someone clearly wanted to suppress at all costs. Just as they prepared to run a second scan and attempt decryption of the embedded structure, the entire observatory lost power. Total blackout. Backup generators failed to kick in. Even the satellite uplink they used to check observatory conditions went dark. Outside, the temperature dropped almost 10 degrees in minutes, and a low hum started vibrating through the floor. Not electrical, not mechanical, something else. Something alive. Malia rushed to secure her equipment while Lucas stepped out to investigate. But after 10 minutes, he didn't come back. And when she finally found him, his phone lay on the ground, his comms headset crushed. But he was nowhere to be seen. Would you like me to continue the next section with what happens during the blackout and what Malia finds hidden inside the observatory? Back in Seattle, hundreds of miles from the observatory and the suffocating darkness that swallowed Lucas Brandt, a young astrophysics doctoral student named Kara Delaney sat alone in the basement archives of the Northwest Institute of Radio Astronomy. Kara had been one of Aiden's research assistants during his final months at the university, and though she'd mostly been assigned to mundane data cataloging tasks, something about his behavior in the last few weeks before his disappearance had never sat right with her. Aiden had become increasingly paranoid, avoiding faculty meetings, working late into the night, and insisting on encrypting even the most basic observational logs. Most had written it off as stress or burnout, but Kara had always suspected it was something deeper, something darker. She hadn't spoken to anyone about her concerns, not even Dr. Chen, who was known to be close to Aiden. But that night, as Kara searched through the old logs on a whim, Hoping to find something that would quiet the sense of dread that had lingered since his disappearance, she stumbled onto something no one was supposed to see. It was hidden in a redundant server node slated for decommissioning, a raw feed archive mislabeled as Simulated Pulsar Bursts, Class B. But the data inside wasn't simulated. It was real-time observational input from a restricted array, one that had been blacklisted due to unreliable calibration. But when Kara ran the waveform through a newer spectral analysis tool she'd built for her thesis, her hands began to shake. The pattern matched the exact same frequency shift Malia had once lectured on, a seemingly intelligent spike occurring just milliseconds after each confirmed fast radio burst, like a shadow hidden within the noise. But what terrified Kara wasn't just the signal, it was the metadata. The timestamps placed the reception of the signal on a date 4 days after Aiden was officially reported missing. According to the log, the signal wasn't just detected. It had been sent from within Earth's atmosphere, triangulated off an airborne relay satellite used primarily by the U.S. Air Force. There was no mistake. She reran the data 3 times. It made no sense. And yet there it was. Someone or something wasn't just listening. It was responding. Before Kara could copy the logs, her access credentials were revoked. The screen flashed red, and her terminal locked. Within minutes, her phone rang from an unknown number. A calm, male voice spoke only one sentence before disconnecting. "You're not authorized to view this information." Panic surged through her. She grabbed her laptop, her bag, and fled the building. It was only after reaching her off-campus apartment that she noticed her email inbox had been wiped clean. Every file related to Aiden or Dr. Chin gone. But sitting in her junk folder, untouched by the purge, was an auto-forwarded message Aiden had once sent her from a secure address. The subject line, "If I vanish, don't trust anyone. Not even her." Her? Kara reread the message, her mind spinning. Aiden had never trusted easily, and his relationship with Dr. Chun had always seemed respectful, maybe even warm. But the phrasing in that email sent chills through her. Had Aiden uncovered something about Malia before his disappearance? Had she been working against him all along, or had he simply grown too paranoid, seeing threats where there were none? Kara didn't know what to believe, but she knew one thing. She had to warn Dr. Chin. She sent a single encrypted message through an anonymous relay server, attaching what little she could recover of the signal metadata and signing off with her initials only. If Malia was truly on their side, she'd know what to make of it. If she wasn't, Kara was already in danger. Meanwhile, back at the observatory, Malia stood alone in the pitch-dark control room, her heart hammering in her chest. The generator had sputtered to life moments ago, but only partial systems had returned. Still no sign of Lucas. No answers. Just that same vibration under her feet, a low-frequency hum that seemed to pulse with rhythmic intent, as if it were alive, aware. She scoured the observatory grounds with a flashlight, calling his name until her voice went hoarse, but he was gone. No signs of a struggle. Just that crushed headset and a trail of faint boot prints leading into the surrounding hills. As she followed the trail, her mind replayed every moment she'd spent with Lucas. The stories he told, the details he knew. And suddenly, she realized something horrifying. Lucas had never once explained how he'd known Aiden. He'd simply stated it, and she'd accepted it. Could he have been sent to mislead her? To monitor her? Was his disappearance real or staged? The longer she stared at the prints, the more questions burned in her mind. What if Lucas was just another layer in the deception? What if Aiden's signal wasn't meant to warn about an alien force, but about the people interpreting it? The government, rogue contractors, hidden research programs, all of whom might have more interest in manipulating the message than understanding it. The thought gnawed at her as she made her way back inside and discovered a new file sitting on her rebooted laptop. It hadn't been there before the blackout. No file name, just a string of coordinates and an audio clip labeled Echo 7. The clip lasted exactly 8.6 seconds. It played a strange harmonic tone, followed by a whispered voice, so faint it was barely perceptible. But when she boosted the volume, the message became clear. "You are not the first. Stop looking, or you'll end up like them." Malia stared at the screen, frozen. The coordinates pointed to a location deep in the Utah desert, not far from an old military radar facility long since decommissioned. But if that site was connected to the signal, and to whatever took Lucas, then going there might be the only way to uncover the truth. Or it might be a trap designed to silence her for good. As she prepared to leave, her phone lit up with a new alert. Someone had accessed her personal cloud archive from an unrecognized device. And the access had come from Seattle. Someone else had the signal. Someone else was already chasing the truth. Would you like me to continue and explore what Kara finds when she starts investigating on her own? Kara Delaney didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of a passing car's headlights, and every buzz from her phone triggered an almost primal fear in her chest. The kind that made your breath hitch before your brain even understood why. She had triple-locked the door, pulled her curtains tight, and shoved her couch in front of the window like she'd seen in those viral home break-in survival videos trending on YouTube. But this wasn't like some random burglary. It felt more like a calculated presence was watching her, waiting, studying her movements, her routines, the way she inhaled sharply before clicking her laptop open again and again, desperate for a new clue. Something alive. Malia rushed to secure her equipment while Lucas stepped out to investigate. But after 10 minutes, he didn't come back. And when she finally found him, his phone lay on the ground, his comms headset crushed. But he was nowhere to be seen. Would you like me to continue the next section with what happens during the blackout and what Malia finds hidden inside the observatory? Back in Seattle, hundreds of miles from the observatory and the suffocating darkness that swallowed Lucas Brandt, a young astrophysics doctoral student named Kara Delaney sat alone in the basement archives of the Northwest Institute of Radio Astronomy. Kara had been one of Aiden's research assistants during his final months at the university, and though she'd mostly been assigned to mundane data cataloging tasks, something about his behavior in the last few weeks before his disappearance had never sat right with her. Aiden had become increasingly paranoid, avoiding faculty meetings, working late into the night, and insisting on encrypting even the most basic observational logs. Most had written it off as stress or burnout, but Kara had always suspected it was something deeper, something darker. She hadn't spoken to anyone about her concerns, not even Dr. Chen, who was known to be close to Aiden. But that night, as Kara searched through the old logs on a whim, hoping to find something that would quiet the sense of dread that had lingered since his disappearance, she stumbled onto something no one was supposed to see. It was hidden in a redundant server node slated for decommissioning, a raw feed archive mislabeled as simulated pulsar bursts, Class B. But the data inside wasn't simulated. It was real-time observational input from a restricted array, one that had been blacklisted due to unreliable calibration. But when Kara ran the waveform through a newer spectral analysis tool she'd built for her thesis, her hands began to shake. The pattern matched the exact same frequency shift Malia had once lectured on, a seemingly intelligent spike occurring just milliseconds after each confirmed fast radio burst, like a shadow hidden within the noise. But what terrified Kara wasn't just the signal, it was the metadata. The timestamps placed the reception of the signal on a date 4 days after Aiden was officially reported missing. According to the log, the signal wasn't just detected. It had been sent from within Earth's atmosphere, triangulated off an airborne relay satellite used primarily by the U.S. Air Force. There was no mistake. She reran the data 3 times. It made no sense. And yet there it was. Someone or something wasn't just listening. It was responding. Before Kara could copy the logs, her access credentials were revoked. The screen flashed red, and her terminal locked. Within minutes, her phone rang from an unknown number. A calm, male voice spoke only one sentence before disconnecting. "You're not authorized to view this information." Panic surged through her. She grabbed her laptop, her bag, and fled the building. It was only after reaching her off-campus apartment that she noticed her email inbox had been wiped clean. Every file related to Aiden or Dr. Chen gone. But sitting in her junk folder, untouched by the purge, was an auto-forwarded message Aiden had once sent her from a secure address. The subject line, "If I vanish, don't trust anyone. Not even her." Her? Kara reread the message, her mind spinning. Aiden had never trusted easily, and his relationship with Dr. Chen had always seemed respectful, maybe even warm. But the phrasing in that email sent chills through her. Had Aiden uncovered something about Malia before his disappearance? Had she been working against him all along, or had he simply grown too paranoid, seeing threats where there were none? Kara didn't know what to believe, but she knew one thing. She had to warn Dr. Chen. She sent a single encrypted message through an anonymous relay server, attaching what little she could recover of the signal metadata and signing off with her initials only. If Malia was truly on their side, she'd know what to make of it. If she wasn't, Kara was already in danger. Meanwhile, back at the observatory, Malia stood alone in the pitch-dark control room, her heart hammering in her chest. The generator had sputtered to life moments ago, but only partial systems had returned. Still no sign of Lucas. No answers. Just that same vibration under her feet, a low-frequency hum that seemed to pulse with rhythmic intent, as if it were alive, aware. She scoured the observatory grounds with a flashlight, calling his name until her voice went hoarse, but he was gone. No signs of a struggle. Just that crushed headset and a trail of faint boot prints leading into the surrounding hills. As she followed the trail, her mind replayed every moment she'd spent with Lucas. The stories he told, the details he knew. And suddenly, she realized something horrifying. Lucas had never once explained how he'd known Aiden. He'd simply stated it, and she'd accepted it. Could he have been sent to mislead her? To monitor her? Was his disappearance real or staged? The longer she stared at the prints, the more questions burned in her mind. What if Lucas was just another layer in the deception? What if Aiden's signal wasn't meant to warn about an alien force, but about the people interpreting it? The government, rogue contractors, hidden research programs, all of whom might have more interest in manipulating the message than understanding it. The thought gnawed at her as she made her way back inside and discovered a new file sitting on her rebooted laptop. It hadn't been there before the blackout. No file name, just a string of coordinates and an audio clip labeled Echo 7. The clip lasted exactly 8.6 seconds. It played a strange harmonic tone, followed by a whispered voice, so faint it was barely perceptible. But when she boosted the volume, the message became clear. You are not the first. Stop looking, or you'll end up like them. Malia stared at the screen, frozen. The coordinates pointed to a location deep in the Utah desert, not far from an old military radar facility long since decommissioned. But if that site was connected to the signal, and to whatever took Lucas, then going there might be the only way to uncover the truth. Or it might be a trap designed to silence her for good. As she prepared to leave, her phone lit up with a new alert. Someone had accessed her personal cloud archive from an unrecognized device. And the access had come from Seattle. Someone else had the signal. Someone else was already chasing the truth. Would you like me to continue and explore what Kara finds when she starts investigating on her own? Kara Delaney didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of a passing car's headlights, and every buzz from her phone triggered an almost primal fear in her chest. The kind that made your breath hitch before your brain even understood why. She had triple-locked the door, pulled her curtains tight, and shoved her couch in front of the window like she'd seen in those viral home break-in survival videos trending on YouTube. But this wasn't like some random burglary. It felt more like a calculated presence was watching her, waiting, studying her movements, her routines, the way she inhaled sharply before clicking her laptop open again and again, desperate for a new clue. Every trace of her former life, her research files, her student portal access, her emails, had been scrubbed clean as if she'd never existed in the academic world at all. Even her dissertation proposal, a document she had worked on for nearly 2 years, returned a 404 error when she tried to open it. This wasn't a glitch. This was erasure. She tried calling her sister in Portland, just to hear a familiar voice, to remind herself that there was still some normalcy outside of this chaos, but the call went straight to voicemail. She texted, then messaged on Instagram, then WhatsApp. Nothing. Her sister's last post was from 2 nights ago, just a blurry photo of her cat next to a space heater, but when Kara tried clicking on her profile, it was suddenly private. That had never happened before. A pit of nausea twisted in her stomach. She opened her email again to see if there was any response from Dr. Chen.
Still nothing.
The only new message in her inbox was another from the same scrambled relay address that had sent the first warning. This one was short, just 3 chilling words. "They're watching you." Her breath hitched. In a panic, she opened her laptop's webcam settings, disabled the camera, then physically covered it with a sticker. Her hands shook. She scanned for nearby Bluetooth signals and Wi-Fi connections, an old habit she'd picked up while working with Aiden. One network stood out. Echo 7 Link. It hadn't been there yesterday. It was broadcasting with unusually strong signal strength, way too strong for her apartment building. Someone was close. Very close. She killed her Wi-Fi connection and powered everything down. Still, the gnawing unease only grew. Had she stumbled onto some military black project? Had Aiden? And if so, what was so dangerous about the signal that people were willing to erase lives over it? It wasn't just paranoia now. It was something deeper. A clawing instinct she couldn't shake off. She remembered how Aiden had seemed in the final days, tired, jumpy, always glancing over his shoulder, even in quiet corners of the campus cafe. She used to think he was just burnt out from long nights and institutional pressure. Now she understood. He hadn't been paranoid. He had been hunted. Just before dawn, Kara decided to leave. She couldn't stay in Seattle anymore. Not after what happened. But when she opened the door to her apartment building's hallway, she froze. A small white envelope lay at her feet, tucked precisely beneath her doormat as if placed with surgical intent. No postage. No name. Just her initials, printed in a familiar, shaky handwriting, A.B. Aiden Brandt. Her pulse pounded in her ears. With trembling hands, she tore the envelope open and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was a photocopy of a news article, dated 3 years ago. The headline read, "Air Force Radar Specialist Dies in Apparent Suicide After Reporting Alien Message." The man's name was Jonathan R. Brandt, Aiden's father. Kara staggered back, her mind spinning. Aiden had never once mentioned his father. Not to her, not in any class lecture, not even in casual conversation. But there he was. A military radar specialist. Dead under suspicious circumstances after reporting something he wasn't supposed to see. The official cause of death, self-inflicted gunshot wound. But the article noted, almost as an afterthought, that the bullet trajectory had been inconclusive, and the weapon had no recoverable prints. A cold sensation gripped Kara's spine. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a pattern. She looked back down at the envelope. Inside, tucked behind the article, was a flash drive. No label. No clue who left it or how it had arrived so quietly. She didn't dare plug it in at home. She knew better. But somewhere in her gut, she understood what it meant. Aiden hadn't vanished out of fear. He'd vanished out of necessity. And somehow, someone wanted her to keep going. Or maybe they wanted her to go too far. Kara packed what she could carry, loaded the flash drive into a lead-lined pouch she once used for old hard drives, and slipped out before the sun broke over the skyline. As she waited in the shadows near the Amtrak station, hood pulled low, she caught sight of a figure standing across the street. Not moving, just watching. Too far to make out any details. But the moment her train was called, the figure turned and vanished behind a parked delivery van. When she boarded and took her seat near the rear, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone else had boarded too. That maybe she wasn't running away, but running right into something even more dangerous. And somewhere in the background, far beyond the cluttered human chaos of urban sprawl and concrete cities, a low pulse of energy vibrated from the Earth's ionosphere, like a distant heartbeat. Something was awake now, and it had noticed her. Would you like the next part to follow Kara to Utah, or return to Malia as their stories begin to collide? The train was quiet, almost eerily so. The kind of silence that hums in your ears like static, making every sound, every rattle of the tracks, every whisper of the brakes, feel magnified. Kara sat near the back, her hoodie still pulled low, gripping her backpack like a lifeline. She hadn't plugged in the flash drive yet. Not here, not on public Wi-Fi. She knew better. Instead, she replayed everything in her head, trying to map out the pattern. Aiden's disappearance, the deleted files, the Air Force article about his father, the anonymous envelope. All of it pointed to something bigger, something hidden under layers of misinformation and denial. For a moment, she wondered if maybe this whole thing had never really been about fast radio bursts at all. Maybe that was just the bait. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. Somewhere outside Provo, Utah, the train made a short stop to switch tracks. Most passengers stayed seated, scrolling through their phones or half asleep under travel blankets. But as Kara glanced up from the window, her heart nearly stopped. A woman had boarded from the far platform, shoulders hunched, face half hidden by a scarf, wearing a coat Kara hadn't seen since her undergrad days. The coat had belonged to Malia Reyes. At first, Kara thought she was hallucinating. Malia had been her closest friend in college, the one who pulled her through late-night cram sessions and exam stress, the one who knew her secrets better than anyone. But Malia had dropped off the grid almost a year ago after claiming she'd received a strange transmission during a private telescope session. Everyone thought she'd cracked under pressure, retreated into conspiracy theories. Even Kara had distanced herself. But now she was standing 2 rows away, staring directly at her with an expression that wasn't relief or anger. It was fear. Before Kara could call out, Malia slid into the seat across the aisle, eyes flicking nervously around the cabin. Then, without preamble, she leaned in and whispered, "They got to Aiden. But he's not dead. Not yet." Kara's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" she whispered back. But Malia didn't answer right away. She pulled a crumpled paper from her coat pocket and placed it in Kara's hand. It was a photograph, black and white, clearly taken from surveillance footage. The timestamp was just 3 weeks old. In it, a man was shackled to a hospital bed, surrounded by medical machines and dark uniformed personnel. His face was bruised but unmistakable. It was Aiden. "He's in a black site near Groom Lake," Malia whispered. "Same place his father was taken before he committed suicide. But that's not the twist you need to worry about." She looked out the window again, clearly panicked. "Kara, the signal isn't from deep space. It's not aliens. That's the cover story. It's coming from underneath us." Kara blinked. "What do you mean underneath?" Malia leaned even closer. "It's not extraterrestrial. It's terrestrial. Something buried. Something alive." Aiden decoded a partial pattern before they came for him. And it matches geoseismic readings from Yellowstone, the Mariana Trench, and an ancient cave network under New Mexico, places with heavy electromagnetic anomalies. They're using FRBs to disguise its movements. The government, DARPA, maybe even private contractors like IonCore, they know about it. They've been tracking it for decades. And now, it's waking up again. Kara's pulse was thunder in her ears. None of this made sense, but somehow, every random piece now had a place in the puzzle. The erratic bursts. The classified airbase. The radiation spike in her apartment. It all fit together, not as alien contact, but as a misdirection for something closer. Something older. Maybe even something they had disturbed by accident. Then came the final blow. Malia hesitated, her voice cracking. "And Kara, you've been transmitting to your laptop, your phone. They've been piggybacking your location through encoded bursts ever since you opened that research file. That's why they let you live. They've been using you to find it." Kara froze. Her mouth went dry. She remembered the strange static noise she heard the night she clicked Aiden's old file. The scrambled message. Her phone glitching out. She hadn't been the hunter. She had been the lure. The train screeched into the next station with a violent jolt. Malia shoved Kara's bag into her hands. "Get off. Now. If you want to see Aiden again, follow me. But if you stay, you'll never leave this line alive." Before Kara could respond, the lights flickered. And as the train doors slid open, a figure in an Amtrak uniform stepped on board, but something was off. He wasn't scanning tickets. He wasn't making announcements. His gaze swept the cabin until it landed on Kara, and then he started walking straight toward her. Would you like the next part to explore what's hidden beneath the Earth's surface, or follow Kara and Malia on their escape from the train? Kara barely made it off the train before the doors hissed shut behind her, the figure in the Amtrak uniform watching from the other side of the glass with an unnervingly calm stare that lingered too long. Malia was already pulling her through the crowd on the platform, weaving between passengers like she'd done this 100 times before. Kara didn't ask where they were going. Her mind was too busy replaying that single, devastating sentence. "They've been using you to find it." It hit like a betrayal, but worse, like being unknowingly complicit in something too large to control. And yet, the worst was still to come. Because less than an hour later, holed up in a dingy motel room on the outskirts of a forgotten Nevada town, Kara was staring at something that shattered the last shred of her disbelief. A folder full of surveillance images, some printed on cheap paper, others clearly pulled from high-resolution satellite feeds. Every single one of them had her in it. Some showed her in her apartment, captured through windows she thought were secure. Others were taken while she was at work, leaving the grocery store, even riding the subway. But it wasn't just her. Her younger brother James appeared in 3 of the photos, and one grainy image showed her mother sitting alone on a park bench, looking straight into the camera, except she didn't know the camera was there. Kara felt the floor tilt beneath her. This wasn't just about her anymore. Someone had been watching her family, which meant whoever was behind this, they weren't above using innocent people as leverage. Malia sat on the edge of the bed, arms crossed tightly, as if she were holding herself together. She wasn't the same girl Kara had known in college. There was a hardness to her now, something forged through fear and fire. And when she finally spoke again, it wasn't a comfort. It was to offer Kara the one thing she didn't know if she could take. "There's a chance to make it stop," she said quietly. "But it means burning everything. Your job, your life, your family name. You'd have to disappear." Kara didn't answer right away. She just stared at her hands, shaking slightly against the motel's yellow lamplight. Her mind was spinning with questions. Who was transmitting these bursts from below the earth? Why cover it up as alien contact? What did Aiden actually decode before they got to him? But the louder question in her head was this. Could she walk away from her family without warning them? Could she become a ghost to save them? Malia didn't press her. Instead, she slid a burner phone across the table. "If you're in, call this number at exactly 3:17 a.m. It's a rotating satellite window. They'll only answer once." Her tone didn't explain who they were, and Kara didn't ask. She was too afraid of what the answer might be. But later that night, as the clock ticked closer to the deadline, Kara did something she knew she shouldn't. She called her brother. She didn't explain everything. How could she? But she asked if he'd noticed anything strange. Anyone following him. Glitches in his phone. Static on calls. James laughed it off at first, like she was being paranoid. Then his voice changed. "Actually, now that you mention it, someone from the government came by the hospital last week asking about Dad's old files." Weird, right? "I thought those were sealed after his decommission." Kara's stomach turned. Their father had been a geophysicist in the Air Force before he died of a supposed aneurysm years ago. He'd specialized in subcrustal tectonic zones, exactly the areas Malia had mentioned. Kara had always assumed his work had nothing to do with her research. But what if the connection had started long before she even knew? Before she could ask more, the line went dead. Not just dropped. Cut. A chill ran through her, and in the silence that followed, Kara felt something else settle in. A choice she couldn't avoid anymore. If she made the call to the satellite window, she would be committing herself to a path she couldn't walk back. But if she didn't, the people behind this would keep closing in, using her as a pawn. And worst of all, they'd keep targeting the ones she loved. At exactly 3:17 a.m., Kara stood alone outside the motel, holding the burner phone like it might explode in her hand. Her breath fogged in the cold desert air, the stars above her bright and uncaring. She could feel eyes on her from somewhere in the darkness. Maybe not human. Maybe something much older. She hit dial. It rang once, twice, then a voice, distorted and slow, as though played through a broken speaker, answered with a single phrase that made her knees buckle. "Transmission successful." The subject has initiated final phase. Kara tried to speak, to shout into the phone, but it was already too late. The call ended. The desert was silent again. And behind her, the motel room light had gone out. Someone was inside. Would you like the next part to dive into what Kara finds when she returns to the room, or explore what the final phase actually means? The air inside the motel room was thick with silence, broken only by the faint buzz of the neon sign outside the window casting flickers of red across the floor. Kara stood frozen in the doorway, heart pounding, eyes adjusting to the dark. She called Malia's name, but there was no response. Her hand crept toward the light switch, but before she could touch it, a low voice behind her whispered, "Don't." Kara spun around, her adrenaline spiking so fast she almost couldn't see. But it wasn't an attacker. It was Malia, standing just a few feet away, eyes wide with something between fear and fury. "They're in the system," she said. "The phone, the electricity, everything. We're not alone anymore." They didn't speak as they grabbed their bags and bolted out the back door, but the weight of what had just happened settled over Kara like a lead blanket. It wasn't paranoia anymore. They had been compromised. The burner phone, the call at 3:17 a.m., the surveillance images, it was all part of a much deeper operation. As they sped away from the motel in a beat-up rental car, Malia finally spoke again, her voice shaking but certain. "It's not just you. It never was. There are others. Dozens. Maybe more. Scientists, linguists, radio astronomers. All of us handpicked and used. They've been feeding us the data, guiding our research, letting us think we were discovering something alien, but it's been them all along. Testing us. Measuring our reactions. Preparing." Kara couldn't believe what she was hearing, but the worst part was that it fit. The sudden bursts of career luck. The mysteriously untraceable grant that funded her lab. The fast-track academic publication that had raised eyebrows but never drew consequences. She'd always assumed she was just getting good at what she did. But now, it looked like she'd been selected. Groomed. And she wasn't alone. They met the others at a safe house tucked into a ravine in Utah, a location so remote that even Google Maps hadn't bothered with it. The people waiting inside weren't what Kara expected. Not just scientists, though there were several, but also a linguist from MIT, a data miner who used to work for the NSA, and a man in his 60s who only introduced himself as Parker and wore a retired Navy ring. They looked just as paranoid, just as wired, just as lost. And one by one their stories matched. Unexplained radio bursts traced to impossible coordinates. Patterns encoded in ways only their specific fields could interpret. And each of them had experienced the same thing, a sudden career boost, a trail of breadcrumbs that led them here, and a moment of betrayal. But what stunned Kara the most was the person who walked in next. Aiden. Alive. He looked thinner, his eyes sunken and cautious, but unmistakably him. Malia reacted first, stepping forward with disbelief, then anger, then something softer. "How?" was all Kara could manage to say. Aiden's answer changed everything. "They let me go," he said. "They needed me to lure you here." The words hit like a gut punch. The entire room fell into a tense silence, but Kara wasn't ready to lose herself to suspicion. Not yet. She demanded answers. Aiden hesitated, but he finally told them what had really happened during his disappearance. After decoding a particularly complex FRB, he had been approached, not kidnapped, not threatened, but recruited. They didn't use force. They used logic, appeal, persuasion. They showed him models, simulations, data so precise and advanced it made their own systems look primitive. They told him the FRBs weren't just messages, they were instructions. And the people transmitting them weren't alien, but something else entirely. Not of this earth, but born from it. A species that had evolved beneath us, long hidden, long silent. And now they were speaking. The goal, Aiden claimed, was integration. But not in the way anyone expected. These underground beings had learned to manipulate electromagnetic fields, interfere with radio waves, even control limited pieces of human infrastructure. Their method of communication was evolving. They were testing how humans responded to mystery, to fear, to revelation. And those who showed potential, people like Kara, were being used to bridge the two species. They call us translators, Aiden said softly. But the truth is we're bait. Kara couldn't breathe. The betrayal twisted deeper when Malia stepped forward and quietly confessed something that shattered her world even more. She had known for weeks. Not everything, not the full picture, but enough. She had been warned not to tell Kara. "I thought I could keep you safe if I played along," she said, her voice cracking. "I thought I could buy us time." But time was running out. Because now, with the group assembled, the final phase was nearing. The FRBs had been increasing in frequency. Patterns were aligning. There was a countdown embedded in the last transmission, undeniable and specific. Something was going to happen. Something massive. And Kara was no longer sure whether she was supposed to stop it or ensure it happened. Aiden, blood trickling from his temple, stood and approached the console. He wasn't looking at Kara. He wasn't looking at Parker. He was reading the message and smiling. "They were never trying to merge," he said, his voice strangely calm. "They were trying to divide." Kara didn't understand at first. But then Aiden tapped the console, revealing layers of hidden logs, recordings, data visualizations no one had noticed. Every message, every burst, every clue, they weren't guiding humanity toward unity with some subterranean intelligence. They were measuring our willingness to turn on each other, to betray, to deceive. It wasn't about integration. It was about judgment. The countdown wasn't leading to a merge. It was a filter. Those who passed would be left behind. Parker looked stunned. For the first time, his confidence cracked. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he muttered. "It should have triggered the merge." Then came the real twist. Aiden, blood trickling from his temple, stood and approached the console. He wasn't looking at Kara. He wasn't looking at Parker. He was reading the message and smiling. "They were never trying to merge," he said, his voice strangely calm. "They were trying to divide." Kara didn't understand at first. But then Aiden tapped the console, revealing layers of hidden logs, recordings, data visualizations no one had noticed. Every message, every burst, every clue, they weren't guiding humanity toward unity with some subterranean intelligence. They were measuring our willingness to turn on each other, to betray, to deceive. It wasn't about integration. It was about judgment. The countdown wasn't leading to a merge. It was a filter. Those who passed would be left behind. Those who failed taken. The base began to shake violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. The cube on the floor began to glow, and then it split, literally fractured down the center, like an egg hatching in slow motion. From inside, light spilled upward, along with a sound Kara couldn't describe. Something like language and emotion fused together, pouring directly into her mind. Parker ran for the device. "We can still fix it," he shouted, but Kara blocked him. "No," she said. "You've already failed." The cube pulsed again. Malia screamed and collapsed. Aiden stood stock still, eyes glowing faintly now with the same light as the device. And Kara suddenly understood. This had never been about alien contact. Not really. It had been about evolution of consciousness. The FRBs were a test of moral pattern recognition, a cosmic psychological evaluation. And they had been watching. As the facility collapsed, the cube released a final wave of energy, passing through them all like a current of electricity. Kara saw flashes, images of cities she'd never visited, people she'd never met, all blinking in and out of focus like they were nodes in a massive, living network. Then darkness. She woke up alone, in a crater where the base had once been. No sign of Malia. No sign of Aiden. The cube was gone, only the dirt, the silence, and a final message etched into the stone where the console had once stood. The choice was made. Your kind is not yet ready. But Kara wasn't sure who your kind referred to anymore. Would you like an epilogue or alternate ending to keep the mystery alive? Weeks passed, but time no longer moved the same way for Kara. She wasn't sure if it was the trauma, the shock of loss, or the contact with something far beyond human comprehension, but the world seemed quieter now, muted, like she was existing on the edge of a signal only she could hear. The crater where the base once stood had already been swallowed by the elements. No news outlets covered it, no satellites registered seismic activity, and no digital record of the facility could be found. It was as if the entire place had been wiped from history. Even her closest friends began questioning her memory, gently suggesting stress-induced hallucinations or emotional breakdowns. But Kara knew what she had lived through. She remembered the light. She remembered the judgment. Most of all, she remembered Aiden's eyes just before he vanished, filled with understanding, almost gratitude, like he had finally found the truth he was chasing all along. Kara returned home, but couldn't fall back into the rhythm of normal life. She quit her job, sold most of her belongings, and moved into a small cabin deep in the Washington woods. It wasn't isolation she sought, it was silence. She needed to listen again, to see if the signal would return. She'd set up her old equipment, pieced together from scraps and old tech forums, tuning in late into the night not for communication, but confirmation. The cube was gone. Malia was never found. Parker's body was recovered, though official reports claimed he died in a hiking accident miles away from any known trail. No one asked questions. No one looked deeper. But Kara couldn't let go. She started keeping a journal, not for herself, but for anyone who might come looking later. She filled it with diagrams, notes, memories that refused to fade, and the emotional scars that the silence could never erase. She needed anyone, to know that the story wasn't just a story. Then, one night, while scanning the deep space channels for familiar noise, she caught something strange. Not static, not Morse, but music. A lullaby her mother used to hum when she was a child. One she hadn't heard in decades. Her breath caught in her throat. The signal was unmistakably not from Earth. And yet it knew her. It wasn't loud, but it was clear. A calm voice followed it, one she couldn't quite place, but it sounded warm, familiar, and deeply human. "We are still watching," it said, "but so are others. Prepare." The transmission cut out just as quickly as it had come, leaving Kara staring at the screen, heart pounding, a fresh wave of fear and awe washing over her. The questions she had spent so long chasing had finally been answered, but in doing so, they had opened 100 more. It was never just about her. It was never just about humanity's readiness. Something else was watching from beyond, assessing, waiting for the right moment, not to invade, but to interact, to sift through civilizations like waves filtering sand. Kara knew now that the original countdown hadn't been the end. It was the beginning of a much larger trial, a process that spanned galaxies, timelines, even consciousness itself. Earth had been noticed. Humanity had been weighed. As she stared up at the starlit sky, one hand resting on the old receiver, Kara felt no fear anymore, only responsibility. She wasn't the hero of this story. She was just the first witness. And somewhere out there, among the dark frequencies and cosmic whispers, something was coming. Not tomorrow. Not next year. But eventually. And when it did, the real question wouldn't be whether Earth could defend itself, but whether it could understand what was truly being asked of it. Because maybe the scariest part of the truth wasn't the unknown, or the conspiracy, or even the alien intelligence behind the FRBs. Maybe the real fear was that this had all happened before, to other worlds, other species, and none of them had passed the test. Kara closed the journal, took a long breath, and turned off the receiver. Not because she was giving up, but because the next part of the story would be written not in signals or science, but in how the world chose to prepare for what was coming. As the investigation surrounding dark matter deepens, the tension escalates to unimaginable heights, but just as it seems like the team might be on the cusp of breaking through, an unexpected twist pulls everyone further into the labyrinth of mystery and deception. It all begins when Dr. Harper's assistant, Mia Reynolds, receives an anonymous message, one that mirrors the cryptic warning sent to the research team just days before. The message is almost identical. "You're getting too close. Stop digging." The chilling words come with an image, a grainy, distorted photo of Mia, taken from the outside of her apartment building. Whoever sent the message clearly knows far too much about her personal life, and the intrusion feels like an immediate threat. She attempts to brush it off at first, thinking it's just another random act of harassment, but the unease gnaws at her. The more she tries to ignore it, the more it lingers, and she can't shake the feeling that the walls are closing in. But when she confides in Dr. Harper about the message, the reaction isn't what she expected. Instead of offering reassurance or suggesting they report it, Harper's face hardens and she urges Mia to be careful, to drop the investigation before things spiral out of control. The tension in the room grows thick, and for the first time, Mia begins to wonder if Harper is hiding something much darker than she's let on. This strange shift in Harper's behavior isn't the only thing that starts to crack open the surface of the team's fragile trust. A new piece of evidence surfaces, one that raises even more doubts about the team's ability to uncover the truth. While reviewing old research notes, one of the junior scientists, Dr. Nathan Green, stumbles across a set of data that seems to contradict everything they've believed about dark matter. The readings suggest an entirely different particle, something that doesn't fit within the known theoretical models. It's a ghostly anomaly, one that could change everything they know about the universe. But there's a catch. The data is nearly identical to findings from a decade ago, findings that were believed to have been falsified. It's as if someone had deliberately inserted fake data into the system years earlier, and now, miraculously, that data is back. Only this time, it seems to match perfectly with the team's current findings. Could the missing data have been planted? Or worse, is there someone on the inside manipulating the research to lead them down the wrong path? As the team pieces this new puzzle together, the sense of paranoia spreads like wildfire. Who can be trusted when the very data they're relying on might have been fabricated from the start? Mia's anxiety reaches a breaking point when she begins to notice strange occurrences in her personal life. It starts with small things. Doors being left slightly ajar when she's sure she locked them, her phone showing signs of being tampered with. But it escalates when she finds a set of detailed notes in her own handwriting, notes she doesn't remember writing, tucked away in a drawer. They detail aspects of her life she's never shared with anyone, from her childhood fears to obscure facts about her family history. Whoever is behind this isn't just watching. They're digging into her past, into the very fabric of her identity. As the pressure mounts, Mia becomes more paranoid, questioning every interaction, every glance, every seemingly innocent conversation. But then, as if to add even more weight to the mystery, a package arrives at her apartment one night, a plain, unmarked box. Inside, there's only one thing, a single, old photograph of Mia's mother, taken years before Mia was born. The photo is labeled with a single word, truth. What truth? And why is this photograph of her mother being sent to her now, at the same time the dark matter investigation is unraveling in ways no one could have predicted? The connections between the photo, the data anomalies, and the strange behavior of the team members begin to form a chilling web. Mia can't help but wonder if this is all somehow linked to her family's past. Her mother, a renowned physicist in her time, had been researching topics on dark energy and dark matter decades ago, well before the current team even began their work. Mia had always been told that her mother's research was largely discredited, that it was too far ahead of its time, and that she had vanished from the scientific community for reasons no one had ever fully explained. But now, with the pieces of the puzzle falling into place, Mia is forced to confront a terrifying possibility. Was her mother's research suppressed for a reason? Did she uncover something that someone in power wanted to remain hidden? Something so dangerous that it led to her mysterious disappearance? Or is there a darker, more personal connection between Mia and the unfolding events of the present? As Mia begins to piece together the cryptic messages, strange occurrences, and unsettling evidence, the lines between reality and paranoia blur. The more she digs, the more she feels like she's being watched, like her every move is being monitored by an unseen force. The team, once unified in their pursuit of truth, is now fractured, each member becoming more secretive, more unpredictable. Even Dr. Harper, whose motives had always seemed clear, begins to reveal glimpses of a past she's tried to keep buried. And as the clues pile up, Mia is left wondering if the investigation into dark matter is a cover for something far more sinister, a conspiracy that spans decades and involves far more people than she could have ever imagined. The deeper she goes, the more dangerous the situation becomes. And just when she thinks she's uncovered something that could blow the entire case wide open, another message arrives, this one even more cryptic and more ominous than the last. The message simply reads, "It's not just dark matter you're searching for. It's something much worse." The gravity of the situation sinks in. Is the team investigating dark matter, or is there something else they're uncovering? Something alive within the very fabric of the universe itself? The layers of uncertainty, deception, and suspicion continue to unravel, with no one fully aware of where this twisted investigation will lead. Each new clue only deepens the mystery, each warning escalates the danger, and as the stakes get higher, the audience can't help but question, what are they really searching for, and who is pulling the strings behind the scenes? With each step closer to the truth, the consequences become more terrifying, and the consequences of unveiling the hidden mysteries of the universe may not just alter science, it could change the course of history. And as Mia stands on the brink of unraveling the darkest secrets of the cosmos, she's left to wonder, is there any going back once the truth is finally exposed?